7 Secrets of the Goddess by Devdutt Pattanaik. Chapter 2. Kali's Secret. Nature is indifferent to human gaze. Part 3. While tantric rituals, where Kali played a central role, were known to many people, and tantric symbols could be found in villages across India, the meaning of the rituals and symbols remained esoteric. They were only known to those very few people who were steeped in tantric mysteries, people who were unwilling or unable to share their understanding in any coherent way with the masses, and who preferred to pass them on only to serious students and fellow practitioners. So, it was only a question of time before Kali's association with Tantra resulted in her being situated outside cultural norms, where normal codes of ethics and morality did not apply. From a forbidding force, she became a forbidden force. There are stories such as those in the Katha Sarit Sagar, which dates to the 11th century, where sorcerers and thieves seek to invoke Kali and get powers from her by offering blood sacrifices at night in crematoriums. In medieval regional Ramayans, such as the Adbhut Ramayana, written in the 15th century, we find the story of Mahiravan, king of the netherworld, a great magician who, goaded by Ravan, tries to sacrifice Ram to violent and sexual Kali, but is outsmarted by the serene, celibate Hanuman. When the Europeans came to India in the 16th century, they could not appreciate Kali's image, especially her nakedness and violence, so far removed from the images of the docile virginal Mary and her son Jesus, which they associated with God. In fact, Kali terrified them, endorsed their presumptions about the natives being savages. They became convinced Hindus were worshippers of the devil and indulged in human sacrifice. This was reinforced by medieval Sanskrit stories and plays, where sorcerers sacrifice men, even women, to Kali in order to get magical powers. In the 19th century, army reports spoke of a band of highway robbers known as Thaggis in North India, who worshipped Kali and offered her their victims as sacrifice in exchange for protection. Novels such as Around the World in 80 Days reinforce this image of Kali, savage goddess of savage natives. It justified colonization as the white man's burden to civilize. Today, scholars doubt whether this cult of murderous thieves really existed or were the invention of a hyperactive colonial imagination eager to think the worst of those they were determined to subjugate. In all probability, the Thaggi were notorious thieves driven by poverty, not religious dogma, who worshipped Kali like everyone else around them. But the image of a murderous tribe inspired by Kali had such an impact that even today they inspire tales not just in Hollywood, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1984, but also in Bollywood, Sangharsh, 1968. This colonial gaze embarrassed the natives of India, especially the young men of Bengal's privileged classes who were now being educated in English schools and exposed to European ideas. They reimagined Kali's image differently. In the 18th century, Kali started becoming the object of devotion. She inspired poets like Ram Prasad Sen, and this created a new musical genre called Shama Sangeet. Shama means the dark one and is one of Kali's many names. Here, Kali was seen less in terms of power and more in terms of love. Despite her fierce form, which evokes fear and disgust, she was addressed as affectionate mother who grants supreme wisdom to her helpless children in the most unconventional way, by denying them material pleasures and exposing them to the terror of existence. It is this Kali to which Vivekananda and his guru, Ramakrishna Paramhans, allude. This devotion to Kali was clearly an extension of the larger bhakti movement that swept India from the 13th century onwards. But this was mostly focused around Shiva and Vishnu. Kali's transformation into loving mother in Bengali devotional literature, which seems to be in denial of her terrifying form, does indicate at one level an attempt to pacify the disapproving gaze of the colonial masters. At another level, it was perhaps born of the desire to explain human suffering. like the Bengal famine of 1770, resulting from the East India Company's excessive taxation policies that claimed the lives of 10 million people. In the tradition of Shama Sangeet arose a very different story to explain Kali's tongue. It speaks of how Kali, after killing Asuras, goes on a killing frenzy, intoxicated by the demon's blood. Terrified, all the creatures of the world beg Shiva to stop her. So Shiva throws himself to the ground in her path. She steps on him, realizes she has stepped on her own husband, and is so embarrassed by her action that she bites her tongue. This makes Kali's outstretched tongue a symbol of embarrassment, even shame, as touching anyone with one's feet is a mark of disrespect in traditional Hindu households, especially the husband who was identified as Pati Parmeshwar, or the husband god. This story is steeped in patriarchy. It views Kali's form as transgressive behavior inappropriate for cultured women. It appealed to the sensibilities of those newly educated in European ways. With the rise of the freedom struggle, many nationalists accepted the Western discomfort with Kali's image, but they gave it a different spin. Authors such as Bankim Chandra visualized Kali as Mother India, gaunt and naked and disheveled because she has been reduced to poverty by the British rulers who oppress and exploit her. In post-colonial times, with the rise of the feminist movement, Kali became an image of revolution and subversion. In her nakedness and refusal to submit to the male gaze, she became a symbol of women's freedom, both in India and abroad. She was seen to embody raw female energy before it was forced to conform to patriarchal norms. She was also seen as female energy that will ultimately triumph over masculine hegemony. Increasingly, Kali is becoming part of global neo-paganism and neo-feminism that seeks not to confront masculinity, but embrace it in its fold. She is being seen as the embodiment of a woman's completeness and autonomy, which does not seek a man's gaze to define herself in any way. In these movements, both men and women are encouraged to break free from cultural conditioning, outgrow masculine anxieties related to hierarchy and validation, rediscover the elemental feminine energy of nature, and love life for what it truly is. Chapter 2. Kali's Secret. Nature is indifferent to human gaze. Part 2.
Chapter 2. Narayan's Secret. What dies is always reborn.